right now. So Julie Yeager, yay, I'm so excited to have you because life's a party, right?
Especially now, life is a party.
Life's a party. So I just said to you offline, it's so funny. Julie and I are what, 10 houses away from each other, but we might as well, in this world, we might as well be worlds away from each other because, I think that's what it sort of feels like at times. And you are the owner, founder of a boutique event planning company. And I have sort of been nagging you a little bit to come talk to me almost since March. I'm going to blame it on you being shy.
That's fair.
Because even in the summer, as you were walking the streets, I'm like, come talk to me. Let's talk about it. But one of the reasons I really wanted to talk to you was I look at certain industries during this pandemic as some of the hardest hit industries, and you are certainly in that as a party planner, you are the top of this pyramid of photographers, caterers, and I think back in March, it's like the world came to a halt and your phone probably blew up going, what do I do, Julie?
Right.
And if everybody looks right now, you see this beautiful smile, this calm demeanor.
Oh, always. I always am this calm. Just ask my friends and family.
But the truth is that you kind of had to go into a whole, no one had to adapt and pivot more to say, like, to your clients, okay, we're going to breathe for a minute.
Yeah.
And now what? And the funny part is, like, when I've talked to you sort of not on FaceTime, the truth of the matter is, when it came to party planning, when we say life's a party, every day it's a little different what you have to do. So we're going to get to COVID as I talk to you, but I really want you to tell everybody who doesn't know you a lot about what Eyecatcher Events is. First of all, tell me about the name itself.
Oh, that's a great. So Eyecatcher Events, about 5 or 6 years ago, I decided I had a history in PR and events, and I decided I was going to try this on my own. Friends had been asking me to do it, and I decided to just do it on my own. I played around with names with friends and family, and a good friend of mine said to me, well, oh, so you're kind of trying to be an eye catcher. And I had a horse growing up with my dad, who has since passed away, that was named Eyecatcher. So the minute he said that was it.
I just got the goosebumps that you got.
He came up. I worked with an incredible graphic designer, Ellen Krugel, who actually made this great logo for me, and it kind of said it all. And really, when I started, I didn't know what direction I was going to head in. I didn't know I started out helping people with social media. I helped do some PR and press releases, but what I've always loved was events. And luckily that's kind of the way it has grown. And so now it's Eyecatcher Events.
I love that. And it's just that piece of your family with you too. And so again, before this change of our lives took place, what kind of were you doing more corporate, more social, or just?
I worked a lot with the Gary Bernstein Community Health Clinic, which I know you know, and do a lot of their nonprofit events. And then I've been doing, some nonprofit. I've worked with JARC, I've worked with nonprofit organizations, but I've also mainly been doing social and mainly bar and bat mitzvahs. I've done a few corporate, I sprinkle it all in. I don't stick to one lane because that's not my style.
Yeah.
But I've been doing a lot of bar and bat mitzvahs. I don't know if it just, it's all word of mouth. Like, I haven't put myself out there much more than Facebook and Instagram, and it's mostly word of mouth, which is, I feel grateful. I'm surrounded by a great community and clients. And the thing about my clients is we become friends. Like, you have a relationship, as I'm sure you do with all of your clients who are invested in each other. And it sometimes feels weird because for me, there's an end date. it's not always an ongoing relationship. And
Right.
so it's nice when you get a referral from someone that original, from a friend.
And it's also probably nice that when they have siblings, because you really are, you become friends, you become family. There's so much trust in when you're planning a life celebration. There's so much trust you do put in somebody in event planning. I know that I know how to event plan, but when it's your event, you might want to help before, but on the day of, for sure, you want to get dressed, close your eyes, and enjoy your event.
Exactly. And I sometimes joke with my clients that I don't want to do too good of a job because I don't want them to think they can do it themselves next time. I don't want to make it look too easy, so they do it again themselves. But it
I
really
have a
is.
philosophy about that. If you need something, you need to hire an expert. That is why I always say there, and that's why I say, like, I know how to do it, but like I also, I do know how to stay in my lane.
Fun. And it's just, it's like, it's a relationship. It's to help the entire family kind of navigate it. It's prioritizing what matters most to you. I am very conscious of budgets. I have often said to a client, you don't need it. You don't need to spend it. And they kind of take a step back at first and say, what do you mean? Why are you telling me not to spend money? That's just, I treat it the way I would treat, I've done 2 of my own. I have another one coming up in March, which we talked about. I don't know what it'll be, but just I try and treat it the way I would treat my own bank account, my own philosophy. It's a very personal relationship.
Well, and I think that's, frankly, I think that's why you have the reputation that's so positive that you do, because people respect that. They, people do come in with, there's many different types of events. People come in with a very set budget, but you also, have people who come in and say, I'll just do anything, I'll just spend anything. That's not always the answer. I mean, that's lovely, but the truth of the matter is that doesn't just make a great party. That isn't, just I have no budget, so therefore the party will be great. That isn't how it works.
No.
Walk me through. So people do, I know that when I had my own mitzvahs and even going back to my wedding, there's a process that needs to happen. So, walk us through like what that process looks like, because I think people need to realize why it is important, to have an event planner versus just, here's my list of, I'll call a DJ, I'll call a florist, I've got my list, I'll just take care of it myself and call, versus I'm going to call Julie.
And we have a process. I have a process. I have, a whole event plan that we go through, but what I usually start out with is a giant brainstorming session. What is your wish list? What do you really think? What's most important to you? Is it most important to you to have, this music, or is it most important to you to have this theme, or is it most important to you to have the certain people in the room? And if they need to be in the room, where should the event be? Obviously budget comes into play, and you can go really big. You can still go really small and make it just as meaningful, which is what we're doing in these times.
Right.
And I think you really just have to trust your event planner, let them make some decisions. Don't, try and give them a little space to kind of come up with a plan for you. Like, I like to gather all my information and then go back to my client with a plan, with a tack plan, or give a couple choices,
Yeah.
And it's really fun to go to a linen store and pick out different linens and chairs and set tables and all of that. Now we're doing it a little more virtually, but it's like a really fun, I think I make it a fun experience. I really do. I'll often like have lunch with my clients before or after the linen store to discuss and to meet and to, chit chat, and you get to know each other.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about March.
Yes.
And I mean, we all know, like, there's not an industry that hasn't really changed, but certainly I think people, rightfully so, went into a little bit of panic mode, or what do I do? And, you know, what do you do now? I mean, what, there was I think we all know there was the cancel, the reschedule again. So where are we in the party world these days?
I think okay. So in March, everything paused, life paused as we know it. And I remember that day sitting on the phone with a friend who I was not planning her party, but a good friend, someone who's even been on your podcast. And we like both cried on the phone because I said to her, I really think you have to postpone. You have to. And we cried. And then I had a client with the bat mitzvah that weekend also, and we cried. And I went to their house and told their daughter why we had to postpone, and her and I cried, and then I had another client who was having a small dinner for her birthday, and we went through with it with very safe ways. And then like 2 days later, the world stopped.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of,
Julie, I'll go back. I'm thinking, I know you did this party.
Yeah.
Why couldn't I go? I didn't go. I was scared to go. And I think that we still deal with that. I think it's interesting as an event planner, you probably, I'm just thinking about what you said about that weekend. And even now, as we jump many months forward, you become like a psychologist to trying to figure out the right path.
Psychologist, and I am not a doctor.
Of course.
That was my biggest challenge in the beginning when someone would say to me, should I do this or this? And I would say, I have no idea. Like, we don't know. No one, we've all proven that none of us know what's coming next.
Right.
Did I think that when we rescheduled some of those parties for August and September, they would not be happening? I really did not.
Right.
And,
isn't it? And it's funny, I just shared with you because, I was saying my niece's wedding was in May, and we're like, oh, let's just have it in August.
Right. Seemed like a safe bet.
It did. Yeah.
And so I've had quite a few clients who were like going to I have a client who's going to have a September bar mitzvah for her son. And then we decided to postpone it a year and do it with her daughter and move the daughter up and have this joint bar and bat mitzvah. And then, and it was Labor Day weekend. And then in August, the second week in August, they called me and they said, Temple had opened for outdoor services. There was a small place to have a lunch. She called and said, let's just do it. And we created in 3 weeks, not even 3 weeks, the most meaningful, beautiful. They had their immediate family. They had a service in the tent at Temple Israel for 20 people. They had a luncheon right outside in the tent after. We made the masks, we made the hand sanitizer. We've done all of that. And she's so happy she did it. And we had promised, we'll still do a big party next year. And the other day I talked to her, she goes, I have no idea what I'm doing next year, right?
Well, do you think that people, we've gone through the shift of sometimes we go, oh, this is so ridiculous with these kids. And, look, I'll put myself in that position. Like I had some big parties, and there's a certain part of me now that kind of looks at it and says, there's a smart parent, 20 people, what love in that room, what a unique time we're having. Let's not lose sight. And, calling you, and I do emphasize this because to be able to call you, to make it special, to use your bag of tricks, it is like having the 300 people in the room, but it's the 20 people that really make the most sense. And maybe we're looking at things, look, that same family might have 200 people in a year, a party, and I say, go for it. We should celebrate. But I'm worried, at first we were shutting everything down. And now, what I'm asking you is, and telling people, I think there's a way to do this. Neither of us are doctors, but there's the drive-by. Who would have thought the drive-by birthday would be national news? I mean,
I did a drive-by bar mitzvah in May that was picked up by the news.
right.
That client, we kept her date. The boys' service was in their house, in the living room, on Zoom with the rabbi. We moved his big party to October, probably like last weekend. It should have been. It's not. And we're not, they have another date in the future, but they know in their heart of hearts that their heart is full. Like they did it. They did it. You hit a bar mitzvah. It just may not look like what you thought it was going to look like. And I know I recently did a wedding for 20 people outdoors, beautiful wedding. And when the couple first called me, they had already planned a big wedding. They did not hire me. They had a venue that had an event planner. I mean, we had never even discussed it. And they called and said, we want to do this in the backyard. It's going to be no big deal. It's whatever. We don't, we just want to do it. Well, it turned out to be the most gorgeous, I think, meaningful celebration that they had. And we sat the family in pods and everybody had boxed little meals. There was not a whole dinner. There's ways to do everything. We don't know what the future is holding right now. We can't really plan more than, I think right now, most congregations, like I know Temple Israel, I believe, allows 36 people. It's all based on the space, and the Michigan Board of Rabbis have made decisions on what's safe, and everyone, Share Shalom, I think, is 25 right now. But you can still do it, and your child's still having a bar mitzvah, or they're still having a wedding.
Right.
Online fundraising versus in-person fundraising, which we were doing well before this with the Bernstein Clinic and organizations, because people only have so much time in their day beforehand. And
I just had a Life Leaders. We just had an online event last week, and a silent auction or live. I mean, there is ways. I think that you're like me, where you have to be the cheerleader and say, look, you can stick your head in the sand. That is an option every day, or you can figure out how you're going to celebrate, how you're going to have that event, how you're going to promote it, or, make it meaningful.
Right.
And do it. And sometimes it might be that you're, rescheduling it. That might be one way. But there are ways to, celebrate these life events right now. What do you think, what has surprised you the most during this time period from sort of having to deal with all of this?
I think really what has surprised me a ton was, well, there's two aspects of it. The hard thing to stomach is how big the impact has been on this industry, on the people I work with every day that I love, we share businesses, we refer, and that's hard. There was someone, a big linen company that I worked with a lot, and they closed. So I think the financial piece to the industry is scary, because we want to bring back big events, hopefully sooner rather than later. And I hope that everybody that I work with can still be a part of it. I mean, I have the beauty of working in my house. I did share office space. I work with, some great women, and was sharing office space, and I realized it didn't make sense for me anymore. So I hope that I can be around, and I can pivot, and I can, help clients to kind of create meaningful events. And I think the most positive thing is that there are still meaningful events, that we are finding the good in every day, that, I have a couple bar and bat mitzvahs coming up over the next few months that I'm planning that are going to be incredibly meaningful. Not what was planned, not what was expected, but meaningful.
Right.
And
I love, and I love that. And I hope, I hope this space time shows people that. And I hope we talk about that. I did a segment the other day about Halloween, and I just hope that we have those conversations. And that is really why, one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you, because I think people, it is so frustrating. I mean, I've watched my sister and my niece, and, I did the backyard, dinner parties this summer. I pretended I was Martha Stewart or some Hamptons person like that. I would look on Instagram and just had fun with it. But, we have to look for ways to bring people together and celebrate and not stick our heads in the sand. And I know if I were the mom, and my kids were going through the bar and bat mitzvahs, or my niece going through the wedding, you want to do that. That's okay. And I always say, like, give yourself that, like, cry, scream. But at the end of the day, you said it, you have a process. And part of your process is what's important. Is it the venue? Okay, well, the venues are different now. Is it the people in the room? Is it the band? Is it the DJ? Is it the flowers on the table or the meal they're going to eat? Because all of those things then become adaptable.
Yeah, they do.
And I was going to say, what's so amazing about it becoming adaptable is what it makes me sad to hear a business going out and it's realistic, but the photographers are out there and the florists are out there. And if there's ways to utilize our community, and I say that our community means, I don't care where you are, where you might hear this, it could be Ohio, New York, or wherever our Facebook feeds take people. It's your community, and, industries that you work with need us. They need us to cater a meal when you can, and support.
Yeah, absolutely. And absolutely. I mean, it's something we did in this neighborhood at one point. We were having food trucks, we're having restaurants cater on Friday nights. I mean, everyone's trying to keep businesses alive. And I do really appreciate that. And I think, the goal is to get back
to keep doing that
normal, but I think we have a new normal. I don't know the next time there will be 300 people in a ballroom having, doing the hora together. I really don't, nor do any of us, but we do know that if you want to do the hora, we did it on the driveway in May. Like, we did it. The boy, you can go up in the chair with your family around you. So we can do it. We just need to pivot it a little different. And the other thing is to, like, my daughter's a senior in high school. I always help with the high school prom. We are still going to try and plan a prom this year. It may look different. I'm encouraging, let's look at some outside venues. Let's do some other things, but don't not plan it, because let's hope that it can happen. And let's hope, I'm going to assume it's going to look different right now, but whatever it may be. I have my son's bar mitzvah in March.
Yeah.
I admit I've really done nothing about it, which is funny.
Well, isn't that like isn't that the shoemaker has no shoes? I'm not going to say that's the pandemic. I'm going to say it's because you're the party planner of your child.
That's fine. That's probably true. Also, I'd like to hire someone else.
Right.
I have resources, and I still I'm helping his friends' families and doing other things, but yeah.
You need to hire you.
But I was so happy when I got the email that said you could have 36 people, which I hope is still the case in March. And listen, my husband and I have really large families. We have a lot of siblings and a lot of cousins and a couple, good close friends. And if that's who we can get in a room, that is like my best case scenario right now.
Right.
We decorate the room. We can, if we do it outside in the tent, whatever it is, who cares?
Do you know this? And this is a true story. My husband, who is a little older than me, but he grew up in Franklin, and his bar mitzvah was in December. So go back all those years, in a tent at their house with a heater. No pandemic, no reason other than that's where they did it. So, things, you can do things.
Yep. You can do things. We had an outdoor wedding with no tent, and it, everyone said it's going to rain. What are you going to do? We bought umbrellas. We never needed them, but they were like beautiful white umbrellas, this beautiful chuppah with gorgeous flowers, a gorgeous bride, and a handsome groom. And,
what else? It's the marriage you need, not
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
I do always laugh because I'll never forget, maybe this is common or uncommon, but I remember the conversation of my father saying, do you want the money or the wedding? And I'm like, okay, so I've been married almost 30 years, and every once in a while I call him, I'm like, is that offer still good? Can I get the check? Like, I'm like, 3 kids later, I could, let's get, he's like, no, you took the wedding. So,
Right.
at the end of the day, the marriage is fabulous. So like, I guess, all good there, but I guess all you really do need is the marriage. I do have some questions because I think this is always important to sort of ask as people grow their businesses and learn from you. Do you feel um, you were ready technology wise for all of this, or are there things that you going into the future you want to build on? Because I think like we all have to learn. Like I know I, even as a publicist, thought, okay, I was ready, but there's been things in 6 months that I've been shifting and
Right.
doing myself.
I mean, we've all become Zoom experts, right? Like we all host.
I don't know if we're experts, but
Well, no,
but at
today.
least today it worked.
Experts for today. I helped host an party that did have to be canceled for an engagement couple. They ended up getting married on a mountain in Colorado with just their immediate family, but we had a whole.
It was beautiful, and I know all about that one, and I will say the most gorgeous pictures.
Beautiful, and there was
beautiful Zoom event.
Yes, and the Zoom event, and we did a Zoom. I think there was a shower for her via Zoom because she lives in Colorado, and we did a Zoom engagement party.
Yeah.
Everybody made a little video or a toast, and was I the expert on Zoom at that? No, but I learned a lot. And I think Zoom or live streaming services, all of those are incredible tools. We live streamed the wedding the other day, and we learned, that you have to make sure the photographer is really not in front of the wedding couple, or the people on live stream look at the back of the photographer. So that was one of the big things that.
Interesting. Okay.
So that was a thing that came out, and I feel a little bit of like the screen drain, which I'm sure our kids are all feeling too, which is all of these meetings, right? I'd rather be sitting with you with a cup of coffee, having this conversation. And I do still go to clients' houses outside, and we still do walkthroughs outside. I have a client doing like a small event in a heated garage, and we're putting an extra tent. So for 20 to 30 people, there's space to move. So technology is a big part. Luckily, I have good companies to call.
Yeah.
I can set up a Zoom meeting or a Zoom event. Past that, there's DJ companies that are hosting Zoom bar mitzvahs. And to eat, like, if that will fill up people, that fills you up, checks your box, that's amazing. There are options.
I think, and I say that because I think I ask you about technology because I think there's a certain element of all businesses, big or small, that have had to also do a shift in their technology to help you with your resources, but to help each other. And I'm finding that, within my own clients of retail and restaurants, I think we all had to learn, sort of learn on the job real quick. But I think that's also important to remind, I should say, the consumer that that's part of it. That's part of what we can do for people. When you're thinking about planning a party and your family is not getting, or friends they're not getting on an airplane right now, they can be in the room. They're going to be in the room differently, but they're going to be there. And I think back when this all started, I couldn't believe that I was on a Zoom funeral and a Zoom shiva. And that made me sad. That was a sad issue, but I thought, at least I can be there for the person in that way, because the alternative is not being there. And so on the happy side, it's even better. You can be there for the wedding couple is going to look over and the screens are filled, and our live TV audiences have become that for now. for now.
And I've made photo cutouts and put them in seats at bar mitzvahs or
I love that.
weddings. So like, or families hold them up in the picture. I mean, people, at least we have found ways to all be a part of it.
Yeah.
2 people live streamed the wedding last weekend, and then they did a drive-by and they stood there under the chuppah and everybody waved, but they had just been a part of the wedding. It just looks different. And when my 7th grader's watching his good friends have their bar mitzvahs on Zoom, there's usually a chat box next to it, right? So everyone's kind of saying, Mazel Tov, we love, like, you're a part of it.
Yeah. I love that. And I just think, in a big way, it's what we need right now. And so I do encourage people to, they have to do what they're comfortable with. This is we all have to do what we're comfortable with. But again, I wanted to talk to you because I want people to know that if you want to go forward and you don't know how, there is Julie Yeager to help you to go forward to know how at eyecatcherevents.com, right?
Yes.
And so I think it's really important that you as the person throwing the event you don't have to know how to do this and manipulate this world. But there are people just like Julie who can help manipulate you down, to a beautiful event. Did I miss anything? I love to sometimes ask that because I want to make sure that people,
No, I mean, thank you so much. That was such a glowing review. I appreciate it. And the thing is, as we said in the beginning, don't cancel. I've been doing like hashtags, stay safe and celebrate. Just, don't cancel. At this point, I might even say, don't really postpone. Just find a different way to do it. You can postpone, but just,
I know. That's your like, oops, I'm not a doctor, but the truth is you are 100% because I think we are going to be living here for a while. So I do love the fact that, I like the idea of don't postpone. Let's figure this out. And I think the truth of the matter is that we forget we are all more resilient than we allow ourselves to believe. And even more so in the bar and bat mitzvah, they're more resilient. Right. They get it. They're living with it. They're going to school with it. They get it.
They get it. And it's not just that child. It's an entire, it's like the seniors. It's a whole generation.
It's a generation.
So it's not just your child who's not getting this giant party, or it's not just your,
no, I mean, look, we had a whole slew of kids who didn't have their graduations and their proms last year. They're in college now, having a different experience. Now we're doing it again. So, we can't just say, okay, we have to figure out what a celebration looks like for these kids. They have to celebrate. These are important times. And who's to say, by the way, we were celebrating correctly before. Maybe we'll.
It's bringing it back to, it's definitely encouraging finding the meaning. That I will say, and being.
I agree. I'm so glad that we got to talk. I'm, walk by with the dog. But everybody, please reach out to Julie, eyecatcherevents.com, S on the end of events. Yeah. I'll put it up on my Facebook. Julie will share it as well. But thank you so much.
Thank you, Sarah.
Have an amazing day. Everybody celebrate. There's something great to celebrate in this world. Be blessed.
Thank you.
Thank you.